26. Okay, so we're on Job 26. Since this is our last week before Great Lent, we will not get through all of Job before Lent hits. And so we'll have to pause, but there's only 42 chapters. We're about 16 more, so we'll have a couple more after Pascha to finish up. And certainly, especially during Holy Week, we were going to hear from Job, so some of this may be familiar, but we will get through as much as we can tonight. And then what is left over, we will deal with after we come back.
I do have to thank you for the Old Testament because Joel was the readings were from Joel today.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's like started the Old Testament.
Yes.
And so instead of Ash Wednesday, we had the Old Testament and
Yes.
God judging us.
Yes, no ashes on our foreheads. So we still have till Monday. So, okay, chapter 26. Let me make sure I have my notes up here too. But Job answered and said, "To whom are you attached, or whom are you going to help? Is it not he who has great strength and whose arm is powerful? To whom have you given counsel? Is it not to him who has all wisdom, or whom will you follow? Is it not one who has the greatest power? To whom have you spoken words? Whose breath came forth from you?" And so Job is saying that he agrees that God is all powerful, and that he didn't, and he's basically saying, yes, I agree with all those things. You could have said those things without condemning me in the process. Will giants be born under the water, and those inhabiting them? Hades is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. Let's see. Yeah, to give counsel to one who is foolish is an act of charity. This is, I think, from St. Gregory the Theologian. To give counsel to one who is foolish is an act of charity. To give it to one who is wise is an act of ostentation. But to pretend to give it to wisdom itself, capitalized wisdom, is an act of perversity. So I thought that was an interesting quote. But he stretches out the north wind upon nothing. He hangs the earth on nothing. He binds up the water in his clouds, yet the cloud is not broken under it. He grasps the face of his throne and spreads his cloud over it. He encompasses the face of the water by an ordinance. Until the end of light and darkness, the pillar of heaven were spread all over, and stood amazed at his rebuke. So we saw will giants be born under the water earlier in verse 5 there, as a reference to the resurrection. The rebirth through water. He checked the sea with his power and his understanding. He wounded the sea monster, for the bars of heaven fear him, because he put to death the rebellious dragon by a command. Behold, these are the parts of his way, and he will hearken to the least of his words. But who knows when he will bring about the strength of his thunder? And so this is all symbolic and wisdom literature, typical of wisdom literature. Job just identifying that God is above everything and can do anything, as we talked about, except apparently take away your salvation, according to Bellevue Baptist. The dragon here is the devil that he put to death, and Hades. So yes, typical again wisdom literature here. 27. Moreover, Job continued his speech and said, "As the Lord lives, who thus judges me, and the Almighty who embittered my soul, surely as long as my breath is in me, and the divine breath is in my nostrils. My lips shall not speak lawless things, nor shall my soul practice wrongdoings. May it not be I who set forth the opinion that you are righteous. Until the day I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. I hold fast to my righteousness and am not letting it go, for I am not conscious in myself of having done anything wrong." My sole practice, and what the fathers say is that meditate upon wrongdoings. They're saying to speak, for example, to speak ill. Where's that passage? No, my lips will not speak lawless things, nor shall my soul practice wrongdoings. They're saying to speak evil is oftentimes out of um, is kind of being impetuous. It just kind of comes about. While meditation is deliberate wickedness, meaning you can say something wrong and realize, oh, I said something wrong. It wasn't a good thing to say. But to meditate upon wrongdoing means that you're actually kind of engaging with it and coupling with it, and we don't want to do that. So, and we talked about that with our spiritual life, right? It's one thing to have a thought. Oftentimes, those thoughts don't come from us; they come from the devil. It's when we engage the thought and go, oh, that's an interesting thought, and we allow to meditate upon it, and then it becomes part of us, and that's when we act on it. So we really don't want to engage in bad thoughts. So
AI is going to make that really tough.
yes.
Right.
Mm.
What?
Because I think it is I think it is, there are parts of it, it's actually like with social behavior, not necessarily as a scientific tool, but as social behavior, is like an addictive relationship.
Mhm.
And I think that we're already seeing it in teenagers that are getting, drawn into these new relationships with chatbots. And
So you parallelize the relationship between a person and AI with meditative thoughts?
no, but yeah, well, and like if you have bad thoughts and you allow yourself um, to dwell on those rather than putting them aside and dwelling in the reality of life. Because that's what I think. If you're just spending your time thinking about it, then my father says that becomes what you do. So if you think those things, and you have an avenue that encourages you to do it, whether it be another person or if you're a very lonely person and your person is in your computer, um, I think that adds a level because if you're having ill thoughts and you have relationships with other people, somebody may say to you, "I'm really worried."
Yeah, someone may set you straight.
Yeah, and I don't think the way that these are set up now that they intend to do
Mhm.
that. So
Okay.
And there's a lot of the chat bots that basically mimic your way of thinking.
Yeah, yeah, preferences.
Yeah, so you're kind of training it to be an echo chamber,
Mhm.
which is not healthy. I mean, especially if you have negative thoughts and do some of the crazy things that we see people doing, it becomes almost encouraged and acceptable. And like you say, there's if I'm talking with a human being and I share my negative thoughts, the other person can help guide me to a more positive place.
Or disagree.
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
Just
They
disagree.
can. Sometimes they don't.
well, they might lure you further
Correct.
into those
Correct.
thoughts.
There is that potential as well. But these chat bots, really, that's not what they're designed to do. There's no,
Yeah, they're pleasers and they're
yeah.
just agreeable.
Well,
Mhm.
they the idea is it's kind of like a if it disagrees with you and you get upset, you're going to turn it off. And that means it dies, as it were. So it doesn't want to die, so it's going to do whatever it can to engage you, and that's
Well, I think it also is steering people because, I've been using it to get different texts for my book and then seeking certain things. This computer, the chat GPT is telling you what to believe. So I have to correct it all the time. I also noticed when I was looking up some things, and Stephanie, this is up your alley, of course, medically, all it will give is what you're going to find in the straight on. Let's say you might read it in the news or something. It's not going to do anything with the PubMed except it's almost like a party line in a way. Oh yes, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, nothing but what, is supposedly the mainstream of thought, which could be extremely wrong, which is exactly in line why orthodoxy is orthodoxy. It's almost like orthodoxy represents why AI can be a danger. Right there.
Right. And certainly, I mean, like any tool, it can be used for good things. But you don't want to use a hammer when you need a wrench, right? And sometimes AI is not the ideal. And of course, the idea, right? Like they talk about AI is going to replace everybody. Well, how do you replace a priest? AI can't do liturgy, right? So,
Well, people could
Yeah.
choose. I mean, the whole transhumanism movement is going on, and unfortunately, that is something out there. So the good news is, while that's going on, people are coming to orthodoxy. So
yep.
it may be that none of it works. I mean, we know it doesn't work, of course, in the end of the world and all that. But no, it's a real thing. People are like forgetting who that they're human, and they want to go like upload into the cloud now. It's very scary, sad.
Yeah, they're trying to be in the matrix.
Mm.
So, okay, verse 7 here. Surely not, but rather may my enemies be as a destruction of the ungodly, and those who rise up against me as a destruction of the lawless. What hope is there for any ungodly man that he holds to it? Will he trust in the Lord and be saved? Will the Lord hear his prayer when distress comes upon him? Has he any confidence before him, or will the Lord hear him when he calls upon him? So Job here is maintaining he's steadfast in his faith and his righteousness, but he's also understanding that that doesn't endear him to God, right? Just because he's steadfast in his faith and righteous doesn't mean God's going to protect him. In fact, he's said just the opposite, right? I mean, God is the cause of what has happened to me. But indeed, I will tell you what is the hand of the Lord. I will not lie concerning what is with the Almighty. Behold, therefore, all of you know you are adding vanity to vanity. This is a portion from the Lord for the ungodly man, and the possession of oppressors shall come upon them from the Almighty. If their children be many, they will be for slaughter. And if they reach manhood, they will beg. Those who survive him shall be buried in death, and no one will have pity on their widows. One of the fathers is interesting. Noticed the use of the word slaughter in one case and um, death in the other. Slaughter is inflicted by enemies, while death comes suddenly. So, though he gathers silver like dust and shall prepare gold like clay, the righteous will acquire these things, and the true ones will possess his wealth. His house goes away like a moth and like a spider's web. The rich man will lie down and not continue. He opens his eyes, but is no more. Pains happen to him like a flood, and thick darkness takes him away in the night. A burning wind will take him up, and he will be gone, and it will scatter him from his place. It will blow against him and not spare. He will try in vain to flee from its force. It will strike him with its power and whistle him from his place. So the burning wind is the evil spirits there at the end. Will take you away. So as you can see, the development of Job has gone from being his friends kind of accusing him and attacking him to now, again, going back to the wisdom literature here, recognizing who God is, recognizing that man is who man is, and recognizing the relationship between them, and ultimately that wisdom is what is most important. 28. Indeed, there is a place for silver from whence it comes, and a place for gold from whence it is refined. Certainly, iron is taken from the earth, and copper is hewn out like a stone, and set in order to darkness. He set in order to darkness, and examines accurately every limit. A stone is darkness and the shadow of death. There is a narrow channel of the brook because of dust. For those who forget the right way are weakened because of mortal men. As for the earth, from it will come bread, but underneath it, it is turned up as by fire. So, if the earth has order, as this says, even more so, humanity must have order, right? There's order within humanity. And the bread here, we participate in that order when we use it for good purposes. And that's the reference for the bread, which becomes food. All the God has given us intelligence and we can use it for good or for bad, as we've been talking about with AI and other things. Its stones are the source of sapphires, and its dust contains gold. There is a path no bird knows, nor has the eye of a vulture seen it. The sons of the arrogant have not trodden it, nor has a lion passed over it. He has stretched forth his hand to quarry stones, and has overturned the mountains by the roots. He has broken asunder the whirlpools of rivers, and my eye has seen every valued thing. He has uncovered the depths of the rivers, and has brought his power to light. So, so now that he's gone through all that, the question becomes, where is wisdom found? Where can wisdom be found? What is a place of understanding? Mortal man has not known its way, nor is it found among men. The deep said, it is not in me, and the sea said, it is not with me. One shall not give massive piles of gold instead of it, nor can silver be weighted in exchange for it. It cannot be compared with the gold of Ophir, with the precious onyx or sapphire. Neither gold nor crystal will equal it, nor can it be exchanged for vessels of gold. No mention shall be made of coral and quartz, but you must hold up wisdom above the most valued things. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be compared with gold, pure gold. From where then is wisdom found, and what is a place of understanding? It has been hidden from every man and concealed from the birds of the sky. Destruction and death said, we have heard about its fame. That's an interesting one because, right, death and destruction were not vigilant when Christ came. Wisdom, the true wisdom, and they were conquered, right? And, they didn't understand when Jesus dies that he's going to come and destroy death. And so it's a very apropos time to read through this as we enter Lent. God has well established its way, and he knows its place, for he watches over the whole earth under heaven, knowing the things in the earth, all he has made, the weight of the winds and the measures of the water. When he made them, he numbered them and made a way for the claps of thunder. Then he saw wisdom and declared it. He prepared it and traced it out. He said to man, behold, the fear of God is wisdom, and to abstain from evil is understanding. So wisdom is the most important thing, the most valuable thing in the world. You can't buy it. There's nothing that compares to it. And it's something that we should be seeking after, although we can't really seek after, we can't find it, right? And at the end there, it kind of tells us how we obtain wisdom, as it were. It's from the fear of God. That's wisdom, and obtaining from evil is the understanding of that wisdom. So,
But neither we do very well.
we as humans don't do very well at all, right? We neither fear God nor do we abstain from evil. So, 29.
So are we supposed to understand wisdom? I mean, it seems like to understand God is an impossibility for
Correct.
the mortal man.
Correct. So the understanding is the understanding of wisdom, right? We understand that it's wise to, when we understand doing evil is bad, we become wise, right? And I'll use a child as an example. A little kid doesn't understand the dangers of the world, right? I mean, they'll walk out in the middle of a road with no thought. And so we have to, as adults and parents, protect them from doing so to their danger. But as they grow and mature and become a little wiser, they realize I need to look both ways. I need to check and see what's going on. And that's just kind of how humanity is. Children are not very wise, and as we mature, we learn better things. And that's where, as Christians, the less we are inclined towards evil, the more we recognize that this is good for us. We gain that wisdom. So
I think how it says it is perfect because, for example, a kid may not understand what is crossing the road, taking left or right, but kid understands fearing the parent, right? So when the parent says like, "You cannot do that,"
right.
and he knows like, "Oh, if I do that, bad."
Yep.
and he doesn't know if what the consequences are. So that's how we are with God too, because we don't like we cannot get wisdom. But Job says like wisdom is to fear God, to respect God.
Yeah.
So that's by fearing God, like the kid fears the parent, maybe cannot understand why that can be
Yeah.
good for him, but just by fearing his parent, it's acting like it's wise.
Yes,
So that's how we are with God,
that was a good way.
and that's what Job says,
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
And even with community, you say the fear with the fear of God, faith and love. It has anything to do with understanding.
No.
Because people will say, well, you can't, you think that this is really the body and blood of Christ, I guess. Well, what if you analyze it? And it's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want to it, but we're not asked to understand how that change happened.
correct. Yeah, the understanding of it, and that's the apophatic theology of orthodoxy is we can't define these things. I mean, how do you define God? How do you limit God with a definition? If you try to do that, you end up with that pamphlet because you're limiting God, and it's like you can't do that. I mean, you have, you know,
Can't use finite terms to define the infinite.
correct.
I think you're spot on with what you said.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
no Job, but
Well,
So,
you're a good learner.
so yes, the more we and that's even today as an Orthodox priest, I don't know that I always understand why fasting from meat, for example, is prescribed for us. I don't know that I can always explain this is, but I know, having lived 50 years of my life as an Orthodox, when I do fast from meat, there is a change. I feel better. There's something,
It's good for your health.
it's good for my health, it's good for my body, but it goes beyond my body.
Mhm.
And um, so just because we don't like necessarily what the church is, one of the things I tell my it's one of the things I tell people when they come into Orthodoxy, and we get to that stage where it's like, okay, I'm going to receive you into the church. I tell them, you don't have to like everything about Orthodoxy. I don't know that I like everything about Orthodoxy, but we do have to understand that this is what the right thing, that the church has, thousands of years of experience to know that this is the right thing to do. So even if you disagree with it, you still do it. And yes, if we fear God enough that we follow the rules of the church, there is going to be positive things there. It may not result in understanding in a way that is the way we like to understand things, but the understanding becomes like you said, the understanding becomes that God knows best for me, what is best for me.
Hey, Father, if we use the Greek word for the sin, it's the right orientation toward God will
Right.
help that wisdom. So don't you feel that that's kind of something that is misdirecting people when we don't have the fullness of the Greek word? Because it's easy to turn into kind of a, check off the box, I did this, let's see, like an accounting situation versus a mystical situation. And I mean, a mystery beyond our understanding.
Well, that's why the West, when they left the Greek language and translated the scriptures into Latin and other languages, they lost the richness of the understanding of what the scriptures were saying, which is why instead of being the church being a hospital and we are ill, it became the church was a courtroom and we have done something wrong that needs to be atoned for. And
But
that's
there
just,
it is. Even Job says it right there. The orientation, brings the orientation toward God. Can you read it in the Greek? Do you have the Greek in front of you?
I do
How he
not
says
have the Greek. I do not have the Greek in front of me. So, but yeah, I mean, so okay, so 29. Job is going to lament again what he lost. Job continued further and said in his speech, "Who may put me in months past, and in the days when God protected me, as when his lamp shone upon my head, and by his light I walked in the darkness." That's a great idea there that, as we enter into Lent and we have the darkness and we're waiting to receive the light, that understanding that we walk by the light. As when I steadfastly pursued my ways, when God's visitation was over my house, and how often do we talk about asking God to visit us? As when I lived in abundance and my children were around me, as when my roads spread out with butter and the mountains flowed with milk for me. So Job wishes to live 1 month of his previous life to remind his friends who he was and to kind of shut them up a little bit. He gives, but in doing so, he gives the glory to God. He doesn't say, this is all about me, but he's kind of reminding his friends, you do remember this is who I was, right? As when I went early in the city and took my seat in the open square, and the young men saw me and hid, and all the old men stood up. The great men refrained from talking and put their finger to their mouth. Those who heard me blessed me, and their tongue stuck to their throat. The ear heard and blessed me, and the eye saw me and turned aside. For I saved the poor from the hand of the oppressor, and helped the orphan who had no helper. And the blessing of the perishing man came upon me, and the widow's mouth blessed me. And I put on righteousness and clothed myself with judgment like a robe. I was in the eye of the blind and the foot of the lame. I was the father of the weak, and I searched out the cause I did not know. I broke the molars of the wrongdoers and plucked the spoil from the midst of their teeth. Then I said, my age shall continue as the stem of a palm tree, and I shall live a long while. My root was spread out to the waters, and the dew would settle on my harvest. My glory was fresh within me, and my bow prospered in his hand. Men heard and listened to me and kept silence for my counsel. And my word they did not speak again, and they were very glad when I spoke to them. They waited for my speech as the thirsty earth for the rain. If I laughed at them, they did not believe it, and the light of my countenance did not fail. I chose a way for them and sat as a ruler, and I dwelt as a king in the army, as one who comforts mourners. So this is a reference both to Christ, right? I mean, all those things, and ultimately the church, who provides all those things. All those things describe what the church provides for us, including things like the thirsty earth that is rained upon, if you will. That's certainly God's wisdom that comes from the church, right? So all these things are the things we're waiting for. We're waiting for the church to speak to us. When the church speaks, we listen. So all those little things. And 30, but now they laugh me to scorn, men younger than I, whose fathers I disdain, whom I did not deem worthy to be put with the dogs of my pastures. Now Job's going to contrast his prior life. Indeed, what profit is the strength of their hands to me? For them the full term of life was lost. In want and famine they are childless. Yesterday they fled to a waterless desert in anguish and misery. They are those who surround me, the noisy salt places, who have salty herbs for their food, and who are also considered worthless and deficient of every good thing, and chew on the roots of trees because of their great hunger. Thieves have risen up against me, whose houses were holes in the rocks, who cry out among the rustling bushes and live under the wild shrubs. They are the sons of fools and dishonored men, whose name and fame were extinguished from the earth. So the church is also kind of treated this way when it's by wicked people, by those who have left, in times of persecution. This is also kind of describing the church from the opposite side.
It's like all the bishops they can read about them. They all get exiled. They all get thrown out.
Right.
They have to fight their way back. And then some say, I really just want to go pray somewhere. And no, you got to come back, and they're going to exile you again. And
Yes, exactly.
Bishops.
But now I am their liar, and they have me as their byword. They detest me and keep their distance. They do not hesitate to spit in my face. For he has opened his quiver and afflicted me. They have cast off restraint in my presence. They rose up against me by the right hands of their offspring, and they stretched out their foot and directed against me their paths of destruction. My paths are ruined, and for they are stripped off my garment. Again, more evidence of Jesus as well. He shot me down with his arrows and used me as he wished. I am overwhelmed with pains. My pains are turned upon me. My hope is gone like the wind, and my salvation like a cloud. Even now my soul will be poured forth upon me, and the days of pain seize me. By night my bones are set on fire, and my sinews are broken up. With great force he took hold of my garment, and like the collar of my tunic he surrounded me. You regard me as clay in the earth, and my portion as with ashes. And again, all this imagery we're going to hear in Holy Week about Christ. I cry out to you, but you do not answer me. They stood and observed me. You attacked me without mercy and scourged me with a strong hand. You appointed pains for me and cast me away from salvation. For I knew death will destroy me, for the earth is the house for every mortal. Would that I might lay hands on myself, or at least ask another, and he would do it for me. Yet I wept over every man without strength, and groaned when I saw a man in distress. But while I held firmly to good things, days of evil happened to me instead. My stomach turns and will not be quiet, and days of poverty have come upon me. I go groaning without restraint. I stand up and cry out in the church. I have become a brother of sirens and a companion of sparrows. My skin has been greatly darkened. My bones are burned by the heat. My lyre is turning to mourning, and my song to my weeping. Um, the dust and ashes references there. Jesus also was reproached by the Jews for thinking he was who were thinking that he was only a man, and he called himself God. And so there, all these criticisms of him. But at one point, yet I wept over every man without strength. He's kind of identifying that this is sort of the story of all of mankind. He's not alone in this, that all of us kind of experience this at certain points in our life. So, okay, 31. I make a covenant with my eyes, and I will not think upon a virgin. What has God a portion from above, and what is the inheritance of the mighty one from on high? So here, Job lists all the things that he may have done wrong. First of all, he's saying, I protected myself. Again, we were talking about protect your eyes, protect what you see, protect what you interact with. So he's protecting himself. And then he's going to list all the things that maybe he has done wrong in life. And this is kind of an interesting thing as you go through it, because, how does it apply to us, right? Because Jesus said, well, I didn't kill anybody. Okay, well, yeah, but you had anger with them in your heart. Then you've committed murder. If you lusted after somebody, you committed adultery. So it's not a matter of whether or not we actually have done these things. Have we thought about it? Have we contemplated it? Have we gotten angry about somebody? It's as we enter the fast, I'm reminded of the passage from St. John Climacus's book, The Ladder, where I read that, and there was a passage there on fasting where he said, the monk who imagines and plans his meal after the paschal service has not fasted at all. And I read that and I go, oh, I do that all the time. And so so we're going to read through all these things, and so I want to think about these things and go, yeah, I've thought about doing that. Yeah, I've thought about doing that. Yeah, I've thought about doing that. And this is what Job is saying out loud for all of us to experience.
But it's like I mean, in what he says though is that you stumble all the time.
Yep.
But if you have the fear or respect for God, and you try to not do those evil things, that should be your goal. Not that it's going to necessarily get you anywhere, but
Well, the more you're vigilant, the more you're watching over your thoughts and things, the less you're you're going to succumb to them, but yes, yeah, it's not about whether we fall, it's the repentance that matters. So,
So, so it's we just thought of as you were talking about this. So God, when we confess, we're forgiven,
mhm.
and God forgets, but we don't forget. But when the judgment comes, do all the things that God forgot that we did, are those going to be there?
No,
So those aren't going to be there.
they're erased. So if you imagine, Revelation talks about the book of life, that your name be written in the book of life. So because we're human, we have to use human terms. I don't think it's going to be like this, but at least it's a way for us to have some understanding of things. All of our deeds go into the book. The good are on one side and the bad are on the other. We want the good to be there and to maintain that, and to be remembered. But if it's like a scale, we want the bad stuff. There's going to be some bad stuff there, but we want it to be, the things that we've confessed, those get wiped away, or those pages get torn out, or however you want to envision that. And so those things are gone. And like I said, the idea being that when you weigh the book, the good is 1,000 pages, and the evil is 100 pages. And so again, I don't think it's going to be like that, but it gives us a visual of how confession kind of works. So those sins on the bad side get, it was invisible ink or something.
And we can't really know everything we do wrong, which is just the most terrifying thing. And the Protestant folks, no disrespect, but it's even when I was a little child, I had all these arguments because we would come down to the Bible Belt. I lived in Chicago, we'd come down here, and every Sunday they had all these people that would come to my grandparents' house, and they tell you, oh boy, I got it made, I'm born again, and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, how can you know that? Because how can we know? And even though we go to confession, what about things that maybe we're not aware of? All of that. And until we're with God fully, like the saints, and we're on fire, visibly, in the uncreated light, absolutely. How are we supposed to know? We can't.
We can't. And you are correct. There are sins that we either forget or that we aren't even aware that for example, you may say something to somebody, they may not tell you, but they may be offended by it, and we're not even possibly aware that we've done something wrong. So how could we possibly confess for that? But the confession prayers do talk about that. The things that you've forgotten, the things that you're unaware of, those things are washed away as well, and that's why confession is an important sacrament.
And it's not only that; it's also the hello,
Unction. Unction.
unction.
Yeah.
There's also like unction also takes away the things you've done unwillingly or things you forget. And also, it's important when we confess. Like, it's important how we confess, because if you confess everything and it's something you don't want to say and you just don't mention it,
Mm-hmm.
then the whole confession is canceled. Like it's not.
Those are the bigger sins, the ones that we are cognizant of, and we hold them to our chest because we don't want to share it, and that's
And this is also hypocrisy. It's also hypocrisy towards God.
Yeah.
Like, don't go to confess at all if you're not supposed to say anything. Everything.
And you're right. Sometimes it is, I don't want to stop doing this. So if I tell you, you're going to tell me I have to stop doing this. I know of a priest who somebody came to him and said he was committing adultery with a woman, and he said, "You have to stop that." He said, "Well, I don't want to." He said,
"No, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. At least he understands that that's sinful, and he's there to confess."
He was honest about it, but the priest was like, "You have one of two things: either this confession's over right now, or you're going to stop doing this." And to the guy's credit, he did. And I mean, but yeah, I mean, there's oftentimes things we don't want to confess. It's not so much that we don't know that it's a sin; it's that we want to keep doing it. Um, and the other one in confession that I really like is, Father, I'm not sure if this is a sin or not. Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah.
If you're asking the question.
But isn't that's just our state of humanness, right?
It is.
And I mean, I think you think sometimes that Christ must have, like when he went away to go and pray, you just wonder how much I mean, he would lament. He's like, how long do I have to live with you crazy people?
Exactly.
You don't understand anything.
How long do I have to put up with this
But
sinful and adulterous generation?
then they would say, Christ didn't let them understand this. He
Right.
told them the story, but he didn't let them understand it. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of tough. Your teacher says, "Well, I'm going to tell you a story, but
Because Isaiah said,
if you have the exam, you're going to fail."
you're not going to understand. So, like my dad says that when he was at Northwestern, his calculus class, I think it was, the teacher came in and said, understand that 50% of you are going to fail my class. Okay.
So half the class dropped the course.
That might have been what a few of them did was like, oh, I'm out of here. Might not have been a bad decision. So, verse 3 is not destruction from the wrongdoer and alienation for those who do lawlessness. Will he not see my way and count all my steps? Basically, Job is identifying that God sees everything. I can't hide from him. And then here's all the ifs. If I have walked with scorners, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, may he weigh me therefore with a just scale, for he knows my integrity. If my foot has turned from my way, or if my heart has followed after my eyes, or if gifts have touched my hands, then may I sow and others eat. Yes, may I be uprooted on the earth. If my heart has followed after another man's wife, or if I have laid wait at her door, then also may my wife please another, and may my children be humiliated. For the rage of anger is uncontrollable in defiling another man's wife. For it is a fire burning on every side, and whomever it comes upon, it destroys at the roots. If I have despised the judgment of my servant or handmaid when they judge me, what then will I do when the Lord brings me to trial and visits me? How shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make them? So we were fashioned in the same womb. But the weak did not miss whatever they happened to need, and I did not cause the eyes of the widow to fail. If I ate my morsel by myself, and did not share it with the orphan, but from my youth I nourished him as a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I have neglected the naked as he was perishing, and did not clothe him, if the weak did not bless me, and if their shoulders were not warmed with the fleece of my lambs, if I raised my hand against the orphan, trusting that my strength was far superior to his, then let my shoulder fall from my collarbone, let my arm be torn from its socket. For the fear of the Lord sees me, and I cannot endure his burden. If I have made gold my strength, or trusted the precious stone, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was great, and if I too laid my hand on countless treasures, or do I not see the shining sun eclipsed and the moon waning? For this does not depend upon them. The fathers talk about that being, they used to worship sun and moon and things like that as if they were gods. But of course, the sun rising and the moon coming is dependent upon God. They're not. They themselves have no control over it. If my heart has been secretly deceived, and I have laid my hand upon my mouth and kissed it, then may this also be reckoned to me as the greatest lawlessness, for I have lied against the Lord Most High. If I too was glad at the fall of my enemies, and my heart said, "Good, well done," then may my ear hear my curse, and may I be a byword among my people in my affliction. If my handmaids have often said, "Who may give us his meat to be satisfied?" But I was very kind, for the stranger did not spend the night outside, and my door was open to everyone who came. If I sinned involuntarily, then covered my sin, for I did not stand in awe of great multitude, so as not to confess before them. And so he recognizes his faults and confesses them. If I permitted a poor man to go out of my door with an empty bosom, who may listen to me? And if I had not feared the hand of the Lord, and as to the document I had against someone, I would place it as a crown on my shoulders and read it. And if I did not tear it up and return it, having taken nothing from the debtor. If at any time the land groan against me and its furrows wept together, if I have eaten its strength and alone without paying, or if I also grieve the soul of the owner of the land by casting him out, then may the nettle come to me instead of wheat, and bramble instead of barley. Thus Job ceased speaking. For all those little things, again, if any of those things we do in our hearts, it's kind of a condemnation against us. It's him saying, if I've done these things, then may I have more punishment on me. But that's a good thing to look at with confession and examining ourselves. So, any questions? So at this point, Job has exhibited his righteousness. He's exhibited that God is the cause of his misfortune. He's also exhibited that God is not doing this because he was a bad person. God did it because God can do whatever he wants. He's not limited. His friends who came to him and initially chastised him and condemned him have heard him speak the wisdom now and have understood, okay, he really is righteous. All these things are true. And there's nothing more to say. There's nothing more to argue against. So now we have a new character that comes in. His name is Elihu. 32. Job's three friends also ceased answering him, for he was righteous before them. Then Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, of the family of Ram, of the country of Sidus, became furious, and he was very angry with Job, because he declared himself to be righteous before the Lord. He was also very angry with Job's three friends, because they found no answer to Job, and yet affirmed he was an ungodly man. So Elihu kind of thinks that Job is saying he's greater than God. He's, by me being righteous, I'm better than everybody else. That's not really what Job is saying, but Elihu, we're going to hear, is a young man and does not have full understanding, does not have wisdom. Now, because they were years older than he, Elihu waited to speak to Job. So when Elihu saw there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, his wrath was aroused. So Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years, and you are the elder. Therefore I was silent, and dared not declare my knowledge to you. I said, it is not time that speaks, though in many years men know wisdom. But there is a spirit in mortals, and the breath of the Almighty is that which teaches them. And long-lived are not always wise, nor do the old men always know judgment. Therefore I say, listen to me. I also will declare what I know. Pay close attention to my words, for I will speak in your hearing while you examine my words, and until I shall understand you. So Elihu kind of represents, the fathers say, the heretics of the church, who are younger than the church itself, that somehow somebody who's, the one priest or one bishop who I know better than all the church combined. and so this is kind of how they're seeing heretics within the church. So behold, not one of you answered Job in argument, lest you say, we have found wisdom added to the Lord. But you permitted a man to speak such words. They were dismayed and answered no more. They made their words obsolete. I waited, for they did not speak. Because they stood still, they did not answer. Then Elihu continued and said, again I will speak, for I am full of words. The spirit within me, my stomach is killing me. Indeed, my stomach is like a wineskin of sweet new wine, bound up and ready to burst, or like the blowpipe of a coppersmith ready to bellow. I will speak, that I may find relief in opening my lips. I will not feel shame before any man, neither indeed will I feel shame before any mortal, for I do not know how to flatter persons, or else the moths would eat me. So Elihu was listening in order to judge, not to learn. He's, his arrogance is puffed up. I have again more wisdom than all of you combined, sort of thing, which of course is his arrogance, which is going to lead him to disaster. He's not going to work out very well. So read 33 here. Nevertheless, hear my words, Job, and pay close attention to what I say. For behold, I have opened my mouth, and my tongue has spoken. By my words, my heart shall be found pure, and the understanding of my lip will think pure thoughts. The divine spirit has made me, and the breath of the Almighty is that which teaches me. Give me an answer to these things if you can. Endure and stand firm against me, and I against you. You and I were formed out of the clay, thus we have been formed out of the same substance. My fear will not distract you, neither shall my hand be heavy on you. However, you said in my hearing, I heard the voice of your words. But you say, I am pure, for I have not sinned. I am blameless, for I have not acted lawlessly. Yet he has found a charge against me. He has counted me as his enemy. He has put my feet in the stocks, and he watches all my paths. For how can you say, I am righteous, yet he has not listened to me? For he that is above mortals is eternal. But you say, why has he not heard every word of my cause? For when the Lord speaks once, or in another time in a dream, or in meditation of the night, as when dreadful fear falls upon men while slumbering on their bed, when he unveils the hearts of men and brightens them with such fearful visions, so as to turn man from his wrongdoing. Thus he delivers his body from a fall. He keeps back his soul from death and does not allow him to fall in war. Again, he also chastens him with sickness on his bed, and the multitude of his bones grow numb. He is not able to receive any food, though his soul may long for it, until his flesh wastes away and he shows his bones bare. His soul also draws near to death and his life to Hades. If there are 1,000 death-bringing messengers, none of them shall wound him. If he proposes in his heart to turn to the Lord, and he declares to man his fault and shows his folly, he will support him that he might not fall into death, and he will renew his body like fresh plaster upon a wall, and fill his bones with marrow. He will make his flesh young like a child's, and restore him among men in full manhood. He shall pray to the Lord, and his prayer shall be accepted. He shall come to prayer with an innocent face and with an utterance of thanksgiving, for he will restore righteousness to men. Even then a man shall blame himself, saying, I am to blame because of what I did, yet he has not examined my guilt to the extent of my unworthiness. Save my soul from going down to corruption, so my life shall see the light. Behold, all these things, the Mighty One works 3 ways with a man, but he has delivered my soul from death, that my life may praise him in the light. Give ear, Job, listen to me. Hold your peace, and I will speak. If you have anything to say, answer me. Speak, for I desire you to be declared as righteous. If not, listen to me. Hold your peace, and I will teach you wisdom. So, a lot of what he says there, Elihu says, is accurate. He's just saying it from, the previous perspective of the previous 3 friends, who once again are saying, if God has punished you, it's because you did something wrong. So he didn't listen. He did what a lot of young people did. I joked with my kids when they turned sophomores. Do you know what that word means? And so this young man is a sophomore. He has wisdom, but it is not accurate wisdom, and it's coming from the wrong place. But it's also the word where we get the word moron from. So, any questions on that? I'm going to pause here, and we will save this for when we get back. Be I think just a couple of sessions, but we have the best part yet is when we get to when God gets to speak and puts Job in his place. So, thank you all. We hope to see you for Lenten services and things like that. And we have Forgiveness Sunday this Sunday. So
Saturday of the Soul.
Saturday of Souls on Saturday as well. So our busy time begins.